Hey y'all, welcome to Crimley Creative. Today is Sunday, June 24th, and this is episode 5. My name is Susan. You can find me on Ravelry as Legal Eagle and on Instagram as Crimley Creative Podcast. Thank y'all for joining me. If you're new, I appreciate you checking me out. If you've been here since the beginning, which hasn't been very long ago, I appreciate you coming back. I want to start by thanking all of y'all for your nice comments on the past couple of episodes. I'm sorry that I have been delayed in responding to those. As I mentioned in the last episode, my work hours have been a little bit crazy these days, so I'm actually even going entire days without knitting. So keeping up with what's going on social media or even comments on Ravelry or YouTube just has not happened in a timely manner, but I do appreciate those, and I do try to respond to all of them, even if it takes me a while sometimes. So keep them coming. I'd love to see more comments. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, I don't know what, or anything you'd like to see me talk about, please feel free to either start a thread in Ravelry or comment on one of the episode threads in Ravelry. I find Ravelry a little bit better for discussion purposes, but you're welcome to leave those comments on YouTube as well. So anyway, again, welcome to episode 5. This episode will have some verdicts, some courts in session, a little bit of hearsay and stashing for retirement, and a little bit of book briefs. So let's get started with verdicts. I have 2 verdicts this time. The first is actually the second thing that I finished, but I'm going to show you first, is what I was calling my Caribbean cruise shawl, because I started it I did take it on my Caribbean cruise back in February. I intended to knit on it during the Caribbean cruise, but then quickly discovered that with the multiple color changes in yarn, it just wasn't very conducive for toting around and sitting around knitting on the cruise ship. So, but I did pick it back up recently and finish it, and I'm just checking to make sure I've got the front. The pattern name is actually called Wool and Waves by Casapinka, and I knit this in a, I think that, yeah, I do have it backwards, sorry, in a Miss Babs kit, which was a set of minis. This is Yummy 2-ply, set of minis that was called Fun in the Sun, and then the gray, which was the main color, the full skein, was Quicksilver. These are actually the colors that the pattern was written in, and for once I actually just really loved them, and so I bought this kit at SAF a couple years ago. I believe SAF of 2016, but I finally got around to starting it, so I'm happy with the way it turned out. It was not difficult knitting, but it had enough little variety and changing of colors, and this little area right here was interesting, where you kind of held the Quicksilver and whatever color you're working with double to create these little kind of marled sections. So it turned out nice. Again, like I said, I knit that Miss Babs Yummy 2-ply. I knit that on US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter. And so I did manage to finish that this past week. My other verdict is I finished my pavement sweater, and I'm not sure I'm happy with it. So get the details out of the way. I was calling this Quantum Leap. It is modeled on the pattern Pavement by Vera Valimaki. I did make some modifications to the pattern to fit me a little bit better, and I'll go over those in just a minute. But the yarn is Leading Men Fiber Arts in their Show Stealer base, which is an MCN 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. The colorway is Quantum Leap, which was their April 2017 color. I knit this mostly on US 4 3.5 millimeter with a US 2.5 3 millimeter for the garter sections around the neckline and bottom and sleeves. I mentioned last time this colorway is from Quantum Leap, the TV show, which is from, like, I think the 80s, and I I meant to look up the actor that I was talking about last time and put it into the episode, and I forgot, and my friend Sharon reminded me of the name of the actor. Scott Bakula, that was his name. I couldn't think of it there for a minute. I thought I was going to forget it again. Anyway, the modifications I made were mostly to the raglan shaping. If you buy it is a paid for pattern, so the Pavement pattern does do a raglan shaping, but hers is, it's a much shallower form of raglan that creates kind of almost what looks to me kind of like a saddle shoulder. But because I have larger upper arms, that was just going to be too confining and one, was not going to be large enough for the arms, but it was not going to fit me well in the underarm. So I did a more traditional raglan shaping on this. I also modified the stitch count for the neckline a little bit. The pattern is written for a little bit more of a kind of a boat neck. I don't like I have narrow shoulders even though I have a wide body, and I don't like my necklines that wide, so I cast on fewer stitches to start with. Did the neckline kind of as the pattern indicated, but with fewer stitches, and then started a more traditional raglan shaping. And then I did also, the pattern is written for a very straight body because I have much larger hips. I did add some increases through the body to make it wider at the hips, but then the bottom has a garter that's got kind of a, not a high-low, because the front and the back are both about the same length, but it's got kind of a scoop on the sides. Not a, it lends a look kind of like a split hem, but it's not actually a split hem. So I did follow the pattern for that, for the short rows, to create that. The reason I'm not sure I'm happy with it is that it blocked out much longer than I liked. When I tried it on the body before I knit the sleeves, after I finished knitting the body, it was a little longer than I had planned for it to be, but I was okay with the length. But once I wet it and laid it out, it stretched a lot more. So I am first going to re-wet it and try to block it a little shorter. I might even throw it in the dryer, the last little bit of dampness, to see if it will pull it back up and not be quite so long. If that doesn't work, since it wasn't at top down, I may actually resort to pulling it out from the bottom and shortening it some. But that will be a last resort. I will try blocking it again first. I'm happy with the sweater overall, and I will insert two kind of crappy pictures I took here of me wearing it full body today, but it's in my craft room, so they're not really modeled shots, because I did not try to like look good in the sweater. I just put it on and gave you a front shot and a side shot just so you could see the length, and where I just think it's a little too long. I think I probably need at least about, I don't know, I didn't measure, but I need it to come up a little bit closer to my hip line instead of as long as it is. So those were the two projects that I finished, and I will move on now to my 2-quart is in session. So the first work in progress that I wanted to show you is the depth cowl. This is in my fringe field bag with all my enamel pins. This is actually getting a little heavy. I'm going to have to figure out a way to hold some other pins or put them on another bag. I did get one new pin I wanted to show you. I got my Dominatrix pin. Actually, I got a couple new pins. I forgot. A Dominatrix pin from Christy Glass Knits. I also got, where's the other one? Well, there's one. Yarn Hoarder put out 2 pins, and there's the other one. So she's got one that has Yarn Hoarder on it, and then also one that has her saying, "Have so much fun with your knitting." So, couple new pins I added. But anyway, you want to see the project, I'm sure. I showed you this last time, but I've got, and it doesn't look much different other than it's longer, so I think it will be easier to see. I got, I had ordered, I think I must have mentioned these before, because I was watching Sassy Pants Knitter, Wendy, and I was watching her podcast, and she attributed her purchasing these to me purchasing these, but I know that I did not have these in my possession the last time I podcast, so I must have mentioned that I ordered them, and I don't remember. Either that, or she's confused me with someone else, another podcast she watched. But I do appreciate her watching my podcast, so thank you, Wendy, for watching. You also may know her as Silly Fru, is what is her username on Ravelry, and I think on Instagram. And she has a podcast called Sassy Pants Knitter, and she's down in South Carolina. I think somewhere around Columbia or Clemson. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, this is a stitch stopper from Jelby. And this is a little cat. I also got a pink, whoops, let me see if I can stop it from bobbling. A pink rabbit. and you basically you put your needles in the through that. It just keeps your stitches from sliding off. Um, this I love my poke me knots that I've showed you before, but this is being knit on a 16-inch needle, and the poke me knots are just a little long, and these needles are just a little short for them to really work well. So this is a really good, it would work on any length needle, but it's also a good option for the shorter needle tips. So this is the Depth Cow, which is a pattern by Talitha Kwame, and that is tangled up on that. This is, I'm knitting this, sorry I'm getting this untangled before I hold it up. I'm knitting this in the Fiber Seed Sprout Sock in, I'm dropping, in the Knit Girls colorway, and this is a yarn that's dyed in kind of like fourths. So this pattern is an intentional pooling pattern. So as you can see, all the solids together, all the variegateds together. And so once you, let me put this back on here so my stitches don't come off, and then I can kind of stretch it out and show you a little bit better. This is going to be kind of like an infinity scarf cowl, and so you can then either wear it like, so that it's, you see the variegated with a little bit of solid on either side, or you can wear it where you see the solid with a little bit of variegated on either side, or however. So you can kind of get different looks out of it. The Fiber Seed is selling this yarn, and they also have two other podcasts, the Knitmore Girls and Itty Bitty Knits, I think. It's one I have not watched yet. So there's 3 different colorways you can order. 20% of the proceeds go to the charity chosen by the podcast whose colorway you order. And I saw that she had posted on Instagram the other day that so far she has raised about $900 for the various charities. So if you want to give this a try, or even if you don't and you just want some of her lovely yarn, you ought to check those out and see. I think the Knitmore Girls colorway is kind of in reds, and the Itty Bitty Knits is like a really pale blue and some more pastels. But anyway, the Knit Girls is the one of the podcasts I always watch, and this was also the colorway that spoke to me a little bit more. So so that's the Depth Cowl. I am knitting that on US 8. So this is fingering weight yarn. That is a very large needle for fingering weight yarn, but it is intended to be a very loose stitch, and so US 8 is very large for me. But so far my gauge is knitting up pretty well, where I'm not having to maneuver the stitches too much to get the pooling to happen the way it should. So, but it is kind of mindless knitting, so I can only do a little bit at a time, and then I kind of get bored. The next thing I was going to show you is my novelty. This is in my Fat Squirrel bag that I bought at Maryland Sheep and Wool. As I mentioned last time, as soon as I finished my pavement, the novelty became my my primary garment that I'm working on. And so I have gotten a little bit more on this done. I think last time I showed you this, I had done the sleeve and just barely any. I had cast on for the body. This is a pattern that is knit. You start with the sleeve, and then you're knitting the body front and back like that, and then you switch to 2 balls for the neckline, which is where I am now. And after you do that, then you join the front and the back up the side by a lace panel. So so this Sucre miniature marker is where I was last time. So you can see I've added quite a few inches. Take the Jan Smiley Polka knot off, and I have broken for the neckline. I am modifying this a little bit. I am making the 1X size, but I did 1 extra repeat of the chevron lace pattern before I split for the neck, and I'm taking, as a result, I'm doing like 2 less decreases on each side of the neckline. I'm trying to make the neckline about a 9-inch neckline instead of an 11-inch neckline, which is what it is on the size that I'm making. Again, because I have kind of narrower shoulders, and I don't like to be constantly pulling my neckline up trying to cover my bra strap. I'm not ashamed of my bra strap or anything, but it's, just not always a good thing to have hanging out there. So So I've been working on that more, and that is, again, that's the Novelty. That's by Laura Nelkin. It is in Cloudborne Fibers Pima Cotton DK, which is, you can get on Craftsy. That's their yarn, in the powder blue colorway, and I'm doing that on US 3. I am getting a little, I don't know that you can see this, because I can feel it more than I can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I am getting a little bit of rowing out with the cotton, just because it doesn't, unlike wool, it doesn't slide as easily against itself to snug up the stitches. And if you don't know, rowing out is where you're, because I'm knitting this flat, you know, knit on one side, purl on the other side. When your knit and your purl stitches are not quite exactly at the same gauge, the rowing out is where one row will be like a little bigger stitches than the next row, and you can kind of see the different rows. I'm not really worried about it because, one, it's cotton, which always stretches, and two, when I pull and manipulate the stitches manually with my hands, I can make the rows even out. So I don't think it's a big enough difference between the two that it's not going to come out when I block. So hopefully it will not be noticeable once it's done, or else I'll be fixing that one too. So that is one project. The next project is the Peeping Cow, which is my sister's Christmas present. So again, Julie, if you're not interested in seeing or hearing about it and you're watching, step away. And if you are watching, let me know you're watching so I know if I need to keep doing that. Because if you're not watching, which is fine if you're not, I don't have to keep telling everybody. So this is the Peeping Cow, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli. The yarn I'm using is from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For. It is their Cashmere Silk Fingering, which is, I believe, an 85% cashmere, 15% silk. I didn't write that part down. But so this is teal, and this color is called Teal. The orange is called Harvest. I have started the larger section of Charcoal, and the beigey color is called Sand Dune. But this is just a different texture with some stripes, and my sister's favorite colors are teal and orange. So while that might not be for everybody, I think she's really going to enjoy it. So I'm knitting this on a US 2.75 millimeter ChiaoGoo red lace, and I'm really enjoying the ChiaoGoo sharp tips, particularly with this very fine fuzzy yarn, because I'm not having problems with catching and splitting and that sort of stuff. So I've gotten some work done on that. And those are, I didn't mention, I have worked a little bit on the sleeves for Christine Sweater, not a lot. I'm not sure I'm happy with the density of the yarn that I'm getting, and so as a result, I'm not sure that she's going to be happy with the sleeves as they are. So I'm kind of waiting until session is over, which is hopefully going to be the end of this week, so I can take that in and have her kind of look at where I am. I've gotten it up to about the elbows, and so I kind of want her to put them on and see if she likes the feel of the fabric before I, spend any more time on it. I'm not sure if she doesn't like the feel of the fabric that I can do much about it. I mean, I could go down to a much spot. I'm already knitting it, I think, on a 1. So, I mean, I would have to go down to like 0 or 000 to get it much denser, and it's, already a lot of stitches, so I'm not sure that I can get it the same. The point, what I don't like about it is there's an existing body of a sweater that I'm re-knitting sleeves for, and so the density of the fabric for the sleeves is going to be much lighter feeling than the density of the body. I don't think it's going to be any less opaque. I think it's just going to feel a lot lighter, and I'm not sure if she's going to like that, if it's going to be what she's expecting. And if it's not, I don't want to spend more time and get it all right and her not really like it. So I need to take it in, but she's been busy and I've been busy, so I just haven't worried about it. So I'll probably take that back in, in the next couple weeks after session's over, before I really work on that again. But I have done a little bit on that. The other thing that I've also worked on a little bit is my Maryland Sheep and Wool sock blank socks. I'm getting about ready to do the ribbing on those, but again, until I get those finished, there's not much different to look at, so I didn't feel like it would be worth really showing you that today. So what I am going to show you is something, one of my sock blankets that I have not shown you yet, that I did pick back up this week and add a little bit to. This again is another sock scrap blanket, and I call this one Granny Said to Use Your Scraps, because it's basically a great big granny square. Well, it's not that big a granny square, but it is basically what I'm doing is just using sock scraps and doing a granny square. And I added I think I added these 3 rows. Let me see if I can get a row that on the last one that shows all the colors. So those last 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, are the ones that I've added. I just added them all yesterday. I just, for some reason, decided to pull this one out and work on it some. I'm using a size D hook, which is 3mm. This is a ChiaoGoo kind of bamboo one. This is the only one of these that I have, but for some reason I think it was Suburban Stitcher. Somebody was using one of these and it sounded interesting, and so I ordered one off Amazon, and I like it. It feels nice in the hand. It's about the right length. It's got a little bit extra width, but it doesn't have a big bulky handle, which I don't mind a bigger handle. It's just this one just feels nice. Basically my plan for this is I'm going to crochet a granny square, and it will be square until I get to the width I want, and then I will probably do rows up and rows down to get it to the length that I want. But again, it's something I sporadically work on, so it will probably take a while. This is actually in a new bag. This is my Fat Squirrel Granny Square bag in her Aran size. This is one of her favorites that she does an update, a pre-order update, usually on the 1st of each month, where you can pre-order this one or her library bag because they've been so popular. And I've always liked this one, and finally got around last month to ordering one, particularly for this project, because it's a great big bag, so it will hold this. And I just thought it was appropriate to have a granny square bag for my big granny square Afghan that I'm working on. So that's it for Quartz in Session. Like I said, I've actually went 2 weeks ago, did not knit at all Monday through Friday, not even a single stitch, because I was working every night till midnight or later, and coming home and going to bed and getting up and going straight back to work the next day. But like I said, hopefully that will all be over end of this week. A little bit of hearsay and stashing for retirement kind of combined. First, I wanted to show you my shirt, which says, "Dear Yarn Shop, please don't ask me what I'll be making with this yarn. I have run out of lies and will be forced to admit that I am just feeding the stash." And I noticed today that there's an extra 2 here that I just noticed. I just got this shirt a couple weeks ago. It's the first time today I've really worn it. So there's a typo in my shirt, but you know, I've already washed it a couple times and everything, so I'm not going to worry about sending it back. It'll just be an oddity, I suppose. But I wore this today because I went to Hillsborough Yarn Shop this morning for what they call a yarn tasting, which they do a lot of times. The 2 I've been to have been for Brooklyn Tweed yarns. I'm not sure if they do them for other yarns or if it's just a Brooklyn Tweed thing. But they had a yarn tasting today for Brooklyn Tweed Peary, which is the new fingering weight worsted spun yarn. I had to think worsted or woolen. I always have to think. Worsted spun yarn that Brooklyn Tweed has come out with, and it's available in like 45 colors. So that was my hearsay, my adventures, was I went to that this morning, and with another friend of mine, Trish, and they give you a little, you pay $5, and they have, you know, juice and muffins and stuff, and it's kind of a little social thing too, but they give you a couple samples of the yarn, and you bring varying sizes of needles so that you can do swatches and everything, and decide, you know, what you want to do or anything. And then if you buy yarn or order yarn at the event, the yarn that's being part of the yarn tasting, then she gives you a discount on what you order. So today was Brooklyn Tweed Peary, and I did buy some. Um, this is Cassis, I guess is how you say it, Cassis, which is, I don't know how good my colors are going to be. This is, ooh, that's actually looking a lot brighter than it really is. It's more of a muted pinky burgundy colorway. This is called Admiral, and again, it's coming out just a touch brighter than it is, but that's not too far off tone wise. This is called Nocturne, which is just a charcoal gray, or kind of a medium charcoal gray, because there is a darker one. And this one is called Aurora, which is not quite as Kelly green as that's showing. It's a little bit more muted than Kelly. But anyway, if you buy, if your local yarn shop is carrying Brooklyn Tweed Peary, right now I know at least until the end of June. I'm not sure if it's longer than that. If you buy at least one skein of Peary from your local yarn shop, you will get a coupon code to download the Lucerne pattern, which is a hat pattern, free on, well, the pattern is not free on Ravelry, but you will get a code to download it on Ravelry that will make it free. So what I did is that hat pattern can be 2 colors, 3 colors, or 4 colors. And I looked at that ahead of time knowing that I was going to get that coupon code. And so I picked these 4 colors to do a 4-color hat. But because of the amounts of yardage that you use, I'm going to be able to get 4 hats out of this. So there will be one hat where this is the main color and these are the 3 colors, and another hat where that's the main color and these are the 3 colors, and etc. So because if you do the 4-color hat, it uses about 120 yards of the main color, and then no more than 40 yards of the, like 10 yards of one and 13 yards of another and like 37 yards of another. So the math works out. Hopefully. We'll see. Assuming I get gauge. But anyway, it's a nice yarn. It's very round and plump. I was really surprised. My gauge tends to be a little loose, and so I almost always have to go down a needle size to get anywhere close to gauge. And with this, I was pretty much spot on, at least the little bit of gauge swatch I did in the shop with the size needle that the hat pattern calls for. I will try to remember to put in a picture of the hat itself here so that you can see what I'm talking about. But it's the Lucerne pattern, Brooklyn Tweed, and it's in the new Peary collection that just came out on Ravelry. So anyway, I enjoyed that. It was just a nice thing to do this morning, and of course I bought a little bit of yarn. My other new thing, you may have, I don't know if you've noticed, is I bought one of the wrist rollers, and I'll take it off because maybe I'll take it off. I've looked at these several times and wanted one, and I almost got the blue one a couple of times, but then I was watching The Wool Slayers, which is a podcast with Al and Sal, 2 girls from Texas, and Sally had one of these from West 7th Wool in Fort Worth, Texas. And this is apparently a color that they did particularly for that shop. They call it turquoise. To me, it is more of a teal. And they're trying to get it without a glare. Yeah, that's pretty good color representation. Anyway, I almost always love blue anything, and I would have been happy with the blue one, but when I saw this, for some reason, I just really, really wanted this colorway. So, or it's not colorway, this color. So I actually ordered it from West 7th Wool in Fort Worth, Texas, and had it shipped to me. And I'm not going to be able to get that back on while I'm talking because the leather's not, the catch is not loose enough yet. But anyway, so I did get that recently, and my husband kind of laughed at me and kind of thought it was cool, I think, because he always carries a tape measure in his pocket, and his friends kind of give him a hard time because he's a woodworker, and so he's always got a tape measure. And so I think he kind of got a kick out of it that I've now got jewelry, a wrist ruler. The ruler is actually, how long is the ruler? 17 inches. Yeah. So they do come in different lengths. I got the 17-inch one because I have a wider wrist, and I also wanted to wear it above my watch. And even then, that's a little snug on me, but it's comfortable, and the leather will soften up. I think it won't feel quite as snug once it bends a little better. They make them, I think, in 15, 16, 17 is what most yarn shops carry them in. I did notice on their website, this, I do have the can, I have the can here for a purpose. This is Love Handles Wrist Ruler. I did notice on their website that in their more basic colors, black and brown, that you can get them in like 19-inch, I think, or 20-inch for men. If you know, if you're, because men obviously usually have bigger wrists. So, but I have not seen them in yarn shops any bigger than a 17-inch. And Hillsborough Yarn Shop, where I was this morning, they also have some of them. And that's where I had looked at them before and almost bought one and kind of talked myself out of it because of all the yarn I was buying at the time. And so now I've ordered that one, and I'm glad I did. So I guess that's about it for the knitting and stuff. I am doing a little bit of spinning. I just haven't had much time to do much, so I'm still working on the same first 4 ounces of the 8 ounces that I'm spinning, and I didn't really feel like taking the bobbin off the wheel. I'm looking over there because that's where it is. And I forgot to update my stash totals for where I am with those 2 projects I showed you. I think I'm just a little over 3,000 meters now. I forgot to check and write it down to tell you exactly. So the only other thing I have is a little bit of book briefs. Not much. I have finished. Last time I was listening to Hidden Depths by Ann Cleeves, the 3rd in the Vera Stand-Up series. I've finished that and also finished Silent Voices, which was number 4, and have just started The Glass Room, which is number 5 in the Vera Stand-Up series by Ann Cleeves. Someone told me that, or mentioned to me that there is a TV show of the Vera Stand-Up, and I have not seen that yet. I am a dedicated read the book before I watch the movie or the show when at all possible person, so I will consciously avoid the Vera Stand-Up TV show, BBC series or whatever, until I have actually at least caught up with. I don't know if she's going to keep, if she's still writing these or not, until I've at least finished all the ones that are out. So, and I did the same thing with the Shetlands. Of course, I don't think I was aware of the Shetland series until I had actually finished all the, you know, a year or so after I had finished all the books. I don't remember when that started in relation to that, but other than that, yeah, I've been reading a lot on my Kindle, but it's all been smut, just, you know, light romance stuff. I usually have one on my phone, and if I have 5 minutes at work and I'm just brain dead, sometimes I'll just pull up my, you know, romance book on my Kindle app and just read a little bit to clear my brain and not think about work for a second. So that's really the only thing I'm reading at the moment, and then I listen to the audiobooks in the car. So that's about it. But anyway, I think that's about all. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm hoping that they are out of session by the end of this next week, but they might work me to death in the process. So I don't know when I will podcast again. Probably sometime late the week of July 4th, if all goes as planned. And we'll see. I'm sure everybody is busy with summer, and I hope you're enjoying your summer and not inside watching podcasts. You're out doing fun stuff. I hope to have a little bit of fun stuff after session's over. My sister and my nephew are coming in from California the week of July 9th to go to the beach with my parents, and so I'm hoping to get down there for a couple of days and see them as well. And then my friend Peggy has a fleece or 2 at her house that I need to get down there at some point to help her wash, at least the one that we bought together. And so hopefully maybe sometime in July, depending on her schedule and my schedule, I'll be able to get down there for a weekend and we can do some of that. So I think that's all. Thank you for joining me. Again, if you have any questions, please post them on the Ravelry thread or create your own thread. I don't care. Or leave me a comment here on YouTube below. I did do some minimal show notes for the last episode, and I will try to do that again, just linking to my projects as I talk about them and the patterns I talk about. and try to remember to put in a couple pictures of some of the things I talked about here too. So hope you enjoy it. Hope y'all are having a great summer and that it's a little bit cooler where you are than it is where I am. So, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye y'all.